3, 2. I want to continue here before it gets light and tell you what it's like to be tortured by white Mexican, sometimes Negro cops, mostly lesbian cops, in Brazos County Jail, one-man cell number 3, where they later shot a comedy episode, which it really tore me up. And the people that loved the show didn't really understand that part of the jail was in the new part of the jail on the other side of the building. I was in the old part of the jail where they had built the juvenile facilities, which was only, I think it was originally was like 9 or 10 cells. And when I got in there, there was only 4 cells left. And across from me was a child molester who couldn't keep from jacking off and shit like that. And there was also, actually before him, there was Anthony Nelson, who failed to set the jail record for longest number of days in solitary confinement. I set that record, 155 days. Not Anthony Nelson. And you know, he was always trying me. I want to tell you some stories here. He was always trying me. He really didn't complete any kind of schooling. And he would try to like write letters home and shit like that. And one day he goes, "How do you spell nigger?" And I just was totally quiet because I'm not going to have Sergeant Shaw, the black sergeant that was helping me, wasn't going to have him hear me spell out the various many spellings of nigger, nigga, to Anthony Nelson, who only made it, I think, a little over 4 months. I made over 5 months straight. They said his record before was 7 months, but and in the back 2 cells out of what was originally 10 cells for juveniles, they had one guy, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cough. They had one guy who was a total schizo that would just like suck his meal plate clean and just, would never bathe, just total skank loser back in OMC 2, one-man cell number 2. And then in one-man cell number 1, they brought in a deaf man. Actually, before that, sorry, I got to tell this. Before the deaf guy, they brought in a guy who admitted he had left his wife in East Texas and went on a whoring, robbing, crack-smoking binge in Bryan, Texas. He had already confessed that he was guilty, and every night, actually, I'm going to tell this story here now. It's actually only 4 minutes, okay. I'm going to tell this story now because almost every night, because usually after 1 or 2 a.m., they could get Sergeant Shaw or somebody else to bring them the telephone, which is on a long extension cord to their one-man cell, to make a phone call. And he would call and beg his family to put their house up for bail, not knowing that once you've confessed, you can't get out on bail. That's how stupid Negroes are. I just got through making a number of comments on the Congolese, etc., and King, whatever, that these people traded their tribal lands and their labor for a few strings of enamel glass beads. I'm sorry, it's probably because the humidity's rising. When I woke up, the air was super dry. But this guy, this fucking loser who admitted to raping, robbing at gunpoint, etc., actually thought that he could get out on bail before going to prison, which that happens in some states, but not in Texas. And he was trying to get his mother and father. This is what a fucking loser he was. He would call them at 2 or 3 in the morning and try to get them to put their house up for bail, which couldn't be done, so he could have a few days freedom before he went to prison for 20 to 25 years. Loser, Negro. And then right after him, in that same cell, I was in the Jesus cell. Across from me was like the Spider-Man cell, then there was the Hulk cell, and I don't know what this... Then in came this deaf Negro who had been shown deference his whole life and given hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of training at the Austin School for the Deaf, etc. And he had admitted that he had been out on a crime spree too. And when he got angry at me, because that bitch Sergeant Kendall, which I told you I destroyed her by saying, "Sergeant Kendall, Jesus loves you," and she would finally shut my door. But before that, this turd, this fucking deaf Negro was constantly trying to get me to write letters or do shit for him. And then one night he got angry, and he had been already for several days shitting and pissing in his toilet without flushing it. And he had that brown plastic cup to throw stuff with. And he started slinging shit and piss into that little whip window that was required to be open, except for when Sergeant Kendall shut it. And he actually started greasing himself up. He had ordered through commissary, like some Vaseline, body lotion, etc. He was so fucking gay. He started greasing himself up for a battle with the guards, because they knew they had to take him down sooner or later, because I told him, this fucker's flinging shit and piss at me and everybody else in front of you. You got to put him in lockdown. And when they came in there, he fought with them for many minutes, and those were a couple of small guards, I want to tell you. Those guys weren't even half my size, and trying to deal with a fucking hyped up Negro that has his whole body covered with Vaseline lotion, that yellow bottle shit. It was kind of difficult to get him cuffed and get him the fuck out of there. That's the kind of shit that was going on in one man's cell number 3, where I was tortured for 155 days. Most of you will never know torture in your life. You think that torture is not getting your bagel with cream cheese and lox at the local Lotteria, the local Starbucks or whatever. You think that's torture, you fucking losers. You Seattle cum-sucking loser bitches. You think that torture is being held up in traffic for a few minutes. No, it's not. I know what torture is. I've suffered it at the hands of my own countrymen, the Texans, in Brazos County, Texas, one man cell number 3. And you know what? I, with the help of Bruno Shimak, won that case because I tape recorded all those crooked cops, the mayor of Bryan, Lonnie Stabler, and other cops committing multiple felony aggravated perjuries right on tape. And I have enough time here to remind you that one of the greatest times of my life, better than any Hollywood movie, was that as I told you before, the guy that would bring me breakfast that was looking at 50 years incarceration for meth manufacturer at age 22, I told him, tell everybody I'm going to win this case. And he even got that because he was delivering the meals to lockup just above the big Star Chamber, brand new courtroom in the newer section of the Brazos County Courthouse. You know, like over the witness stand, there's a 6-foot light, dome light, to make you look like. And I'm going to stop right here. The guy that eventually arrested me, Daniel, I'm going to forget his last name. Not Ladewigger. When Daniel entered the courtroom, he ignored the jury, the judge, and when he mounted the witness stand under the light, the big 6-foot light, he bowed to me and he said, Mr. Kruger, and I said, actually Rutledge. I said, Mr. Rutledge, because I already told him by mail that I was going to kick his ass once he got into that courtroom. And he knew it. He resigned from the Bryan PD right after that. I had sent him all kind of funny shit. I had some, I have enough time here. I had some subpoena papers, you know, the real forms. They're triplicate. There's like a white, pink, and yellow, whatever. And I had sent him, this is hilarious. I sent him a subpoena form saying that he was to appear at the Brazos County Courthouse, courtroom number whatever, with two Swedish hookers, something else, 5 pounds of skunk weed. This is true. This is really true. 5 pounds of skunk weed, and 4 Chinese hookers, because, as I said, they're kind of small, and a 5-gallon bucket of gear lube to the hot tub room of the courthouse. And he wrote me back going, how the fuck did you get a hold of that shit? That's because I'm smarter than you, Detective Rutledge, who totally disappeared. I smuggled that shit in amongst thousands of pages of paper in my fucking leather briefcase. I'm smarter than you motherfuckers. I beat you to death, forced you out of office, and got some of you arrested. So I have 1 minute here now, but I want to tell you this final ending. On the second day when Rutledge was testifying, the people in lockup started stamping their feet in unison. Stomp, stomp, stomp. The judge couldn't stop them because 28 days is the federal limit. And Mr. Rutledge ignored everybody else, addressed me as Mr. Kruger. I said, Mr. Rutledge. And then me and Bruno tore his ass up. Totally won my first frame up. In the last 3 years, I've been framed up twice more by lesbians each time. At least the first lesbian shot herself in the fucking head.